There we are recording. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paula. Again, I want to welcome the Cottonwood Heights City Council and other guests. This is Tuesday, May 18th. It's just after 7 p.m. Sorry to be a couple minutes late. My name is Mayor Mike Peterson. This is again the City of Cottonwood Heights, and it's our business meeting for this second part of the month of May. We're meeting virtually, and to do that, I need to read a determination that gives us the authority to meet virtually, and that determination states, pursuant to Utah Code annotated 524-2074, the city's mayor, as the chair of the city council, hereby determines that conducting the meetings of these bodies on this date at an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. It is well recognized that a global pandemic currently exists related to the COVID-19 coronavirus, which has the potential to overwhelm Utah's healthcare system. Therefore, due to the state of emergency caused by the global pandemic, I find that conducting a meeting at the anchor location under the current state of public health emergency constitutes a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the location. And therefore, we're meeting virtually. And hopefully, this is one of our last meetings doing it this way. And in June, we can get back to normal. Anyway, that's the plan, but we'll see how it comes together. Next item on our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. And I would ask Councilor Bracken, would you be willing to lead us in that pledge?
Sure. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Bracken. I appreciate you doing that for us. The next item on our agenda is citizen comments. And as is stated in our city code of ordinances, that we will allow up to 1 hour for public comments at our work sessions. Just want to remind those who want to make public comment, I encourage you to please be civil, no personal attacks. But however, we also want you to feel welcome and appreciate your willingness to attend tonight and share your thoughts and comments. We will allow 3 minutes per individual who's making comments. People can speak once. Our city manager, if you are online and can see it, will hold up the card that tells you when that time is up, and I'll try and be careful in reminding you if not. Again, appreciate your participation tonight. And Paul, who's the first person who would like to make comments?
Mayor, may I say something?
Please.
I have 5 written comments. I don't have the topic or the information, but we're going to forward these to the city council, these written comments, and also they'll be part of the public record. They are from Charlene G. Love Nicholson, Clay Rockwood, Howard Norton, Kim Cron, and Runar Bowman. And so we will forward those on to the council for your review, and they'll be part of the public record.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. And others who want to in the future send written comments, we always appreciate those. Paul,
Mayor, I'd also like to make a comment if that's okay. In
Yes.
anticipation of what some of the comments will be, and hope that this does not take from any of the public's time. But the AG's office clearly stated that they did a comprehensive report and a review of all the evidence either submitted or that they could obtain on the August 2nd incident. Their report last week was a summary of those findings from that comprehensive report. They reached conclusions from that report and presented items to support those conclusions to us. If someone has any evidence of incompetence or ineptitude by the AG's office, then I would invite them to present it. I, for one, have no reason to doubt their integrity or the veracity of their investigation. They know the law and they know its implications, and they answered the questions that were put to them. On a separate, more personal note, there are some that seem to be intent through innuendo and ambiguity to attack my integrity and others on this council. While everyone is entitled to their opinion, let me clearly state, my integrity is not for sale, nor has it ever been. Rumor mongering, gossip, and propagandizing may be protected by the First Amendment, but they are still vile and often fabrications to support a personal agenda. Those who know me would not be dissuaded. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen Bracken.
Mayor, can I give a quick comment as well?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I
Go
don't
right
want to
ahead.
take I don't want to take from the public time either, but
No, we'll start an hour from when you finish.
thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that the AG report acknowledged some gaps. Planning could have been better, and obviously this is far from over. There will be several venues that will deal with this, and I think the important thing right now is that we move forward as a city.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Tally. Okay, Paula, who's our first person who'd like to comment?
Yes, Mayor, it's Tim Hallback.
Welcome, Tim.
Unmute. That was unexpected. I expected a whole bunch of people going on tonight. You guys can hear all right? Okay. I have some comments about the earlier meeting. 400,000 or 450,000 to fix a length of sidewalk. That's insane. Okay. That I'm not part of the internal workings, but I'm just saying that's crazy. Number two, the gravel pits and the different hotels and different condominiums and the corners. Okay, so I lived on the Loma Prieta fault line. I was 150 feet away from the fault line in Scotts Valley in California in 1989. And 6 of my neighbors disappeared. And I can tell you that it would be folly at the best to build along any fault line, much less any kind of construction along 2 fault lines, which I understand is what is happening at the gravel pit. So that's just dumb. I don't get that. That's number 2. Number 3, what the heck is going on with the roundabout at 2300 and the high school? For the last year and a half or so, we've had multiple people come along, engineers, and say, the safest intersection is a 3-way T intersection, which is exactly what we have going from, coming up 2300 to the high school and then going downhill to my own councilman, Bryken's house. Why would we change that? That's insane to me. I don't get it. And number 4, and this is, it pains me to say this, but a councilperson suggesting earlier tonight the police training item was deleted or omitted from our current budget during the earlier discussions over the last 3 weeks is just crazy. It's disinformation. And as much as it pays me to say so, I would ask that council person dismiss herself from the city council. That's it. Normally I would fill in this portion with, different jokes or that kind of thing, but I can't. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
Runar Bowman.
Mr. Bowman, welcome. Mr. Bowman, you're still muted. Mr. Bowman, can you unmute yourself? There you go. Oh, welcome.
Am I back now? Am I there?
You're here.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to comment on the budget meeting that just ended. And I really like the budget meetings. I find them very interesting and enlightening, and I just like them. They're cool. I especially like the general fund comparative analysis report. I think there's a lot of good information there. So I really like seeing that, listening to it. I moved to Cottonwood Heights about 5 years ago from Salt Lake City. Love Cottonwood Heights, great place to live. I'm an avid skier, cyclist, and hiker, so I love the mountains, and that's why I'm here. I came from California originally, and I think it's a beautiful state, beautiful city. I love it, and I like hearing comments about always wanting to improve the city and make it a more livable place. I see in the budget analysis or the budget, negotiations, if you will, there's always not enough money, and we're always compromising and trying to prioritize projects, if you will. I hear open space mentioned, trails, roads, police funding, sidewalks. I heard a lot about that tonight. Very interesting. Parks and recreation, and also speed mitigation safety. So all those things, to me, benefit the community and make this place a better place to live. And I'd like to see all those things included in the budget. And of course, there's issues with money, especially in the case of the sidewalks. So my concern is that we are seemingly focused on funding a rooftop solar project for the City Hall building that will do nothing to benefit the community, individuals such as myself. So my concern is, why are we prioritizing that over all these other beneficial projects that would impact the lives of all the citizens of this city? So that is my concern, is that you're justifying that over other worthy projects. And I know that you're going to be finalizing the budget come June 15th. I would like to see something as far as the rationale, as far as why this solar project is so important. You're really just putting up an expensive roof that occasionally produces some electricity. Most of the time, it does not do anything. It's weather dependent, it's time of day dependent. It only produces energy around 15% of the time. It makes no sense as far as providing power to the grid. It's just a bad project. And I would just like to see some information as to why this is so important to the City Council. Thank you.
Yep, good comments. Appreciate that. And I assume we'll get some information back to you. Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Paula, who's next?
Mike Hansen.
Mr. Hanson, welcome.
How you doing tonight? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Well, Mayor, Council, I'd like to thank you first of all for giving us this time that we can have this communication, and I really appreciate it a lot. Looking forward to the time when we can come and stand in front of you in person, as I'd said before. In regards to the budget discussion and presentation that was given tonight in the work session, as a citizen, I would really like to thank the staff for all the time, effort, and undoubtedly the added expense in presenting the council with the requested comparison to our peer cities around us. Councilperson Bruce made a comment about since her day one, she had requested transparency, and hopefully this will be a step in the right direction with her focus. She also commented that the study would not be completely transparent without the outsourcing bid element. And I just want to make a couple comments about it, because throughout our city's history, as many of you know, when needed, our mayors and council have precisely done such a thing. And just have a couple examples, some successful and some not so much successful. So example for when our city had to make a decision for self-providing police. I don't believe, and I was a part of listening to all this, that it was a willy-nilly decision on our council. In fact, a lot of effort, a lot of expense in feasibility study, multiple hearings, citizens' comments, which ended with our city moving away from the county sheriff's department and creating what we have today. And we have services that are uncomparable and actually pretty much on par with our peers. I thought that was really interesting to see where that comes in. And then we can go back to the thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about within the city, and that was the snowplow days. Listening to those council meetings and looking at the run amok budget from the county in overages and some of the things that were associated to that became a concern to our mayor and council. And what did they do? They studied it. They studied it and decided to take this as outsourcing and look at subcontractors. They vetted some contractors. They decided on one after a lot of vetting. And we know what happened there. The subcontractor failed horribly. And our city was in the process of trying to negotiate out of a 5-year contract, which they were able to do. Keep on studying, keep on working through it. And we have what we have today, and that's self-provided. You know, the county gave us great services, but it wasn't something that was economically feasible. So the bid outsourced concept is not anything really new to our city. And I would hope that we understand, thanks Tim, 30 seconds, that we can look at that as things are needed. I have a couple of things to talk about, but that was really what was on top of my mind. And I, again, appreciate this opportunity. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Appreciate you taking the time to join us and your comments. Paula, who's next?
Darlene McDonald.
Welcome, Darlene.
Hello,
Appreciate you taking the time to join us.
thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for everything that you do and the hard work that you do for the city council for your city. I was at the rally march on August the 2nd that prompted the report that was released by the Attorney General's office. I don't live in Cottonwood Heights. I came about being there because I was invited to attend because I normally give a historical perspective on different issues, especially issues as it relates to policing in America. And the mother of the young man that was shot and killed, Zing James, invited me to come and speak. That's how I happened to be there on that day. I have to say that as a person of color, I am an African-American woman. My parents was born and raised in the South during the 50s and the 60s and were very involved, or should I just say lived through many of the incidences that most of us read about in our school books. I had never experienced anything like what happened in Cottonwood Heights that day. I was not necessarily afraid for my life, but it was an event that started out to be, it was a peaceful event until it became something else. I know that there was a gentleman who said that they wished that Councilwoman Bruce would resign her seat. I'm going to tell you why that should not happen. And this is not easy for me to say. We need allies in the work that we do when it comes for fighting for racial and social justice. If it is not for the presence of white allies especially, then there will be a lot more bloodshed in the streets. I am so thankful that Miss Bruce had the courage to be there and to do exactly what is required of allies to do, which is to film what is happening. If it had not been for the footage that occurred that prompted the summer of protest, the police report that was released about the incident that took George Floyd's life would never have come to light. So I want to say that's why I am here.
Thank you, Darlene. We appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
I don't have anyone raising their hand.
Let's wait just a minute. Yeah.
Paula, Denise Clark, you let in.
Yeah, I'm trying to put her back and do the.
She's in right now.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm here.
Go ahead, Denise. Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I really think that Tally Bruce should be removed from office and charged for obstructing justice and harassing police officers. She did not uphold the law. She incited others to disregard the law. In fact, she encouraged it. She supports riots and attacks against police, which does not support our Constitution and our beliefs. And I feel that we can't trust her to make decisions that will affect us and our families, nor to uphold the law that protects us.
Thank you,
And
Denise.
as far as the First Amendment goes, I've heard a lot about the First Amendment rights, but your First Amendment rights end when you start infringing on the rights and freedoms of others. It doesn't give you the right to break laws and attack police officers. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Denise. Appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight. Paula, who's next?
Kim Steenblick.
Kim, welcome.
Hi. Okay, so I just want to talk about two things. One of them is the roundabout that's going in up by Brighton. I'm on the SCC up at Brighton High School, and we did a tour of the building, and we're made aware that the roundabout's going to kind of be going in at the same exact time as school. That you haven't hired it out yet, but it's going to be going in right as school is the beginning of school, which concerns me. I don't love the roundabout to begin with, but to have it right when school's starting, when parking's an issue at the church and different things. And I'm just wondering if maybe we can push that back until Brighton High School is completely finished. It's just going to be a nightmare. And the other thing I wanted to comment on is I tuned in last week for the AG's report, and I appreciate all the work that they did. I thought that they did a thorough investigation. They answered all of the questions that the city had asked, and I thought the report was really good and thorough. And I just want to thank all of you as city council members, all the work you do. I know it's been a tough year, a tough summer, and COVID has added to it. And so I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank the police officers and all of the people that put all the time and effort that you do into our city to make it a better city. I really enjoy living here. It's a great place to be, and I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. Paula, who's next?
John Heyman.
John, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I've got several things to say here, so I'm gonna go quick. First of all, I'm so glad that Robbie Russo was vindicated. He does a great job. We are lucky to have him as a police chief. And he does a great job with our police force and all our policemen. They did a great job in August during that riot. And the AG's report was very thorough. I am from Cottonwood Heights. I was there when the whole thing happened. And that report that they laid out was right on the money. It was exactly as it happened. I'll add to that Tally Bruce should be ashamed of herself. I'm shocked that she still even wants to be a council person because her behavior was unacceptable. As a person that's not on a city council, maybe you could have gotten away with that. But as a city council member, you should have known better, and you should have done differently. Also, I'd like to point out that there were no permits for those folks to gather at that park. And my understanding was that they were just allowed to go there because folks were being nice. Stop doing that. If you don't have a permit, don't show up. And then this whole issue wouldn't have occurred. The other thing I'd like to say is that I agree with Mr. Bowman about the solar. I think you guys should look at it. I mean, the ROI on that is incredibly bad. I don't even understand why that's a good idea, but maybe I just don't understand it yet. So I'll do some more research. And then the other thing that I'd like to say is that roundabout on paper and the way they laid it out, it looks really nice. But honestly, a three-way stop sign there would be much better than what we currently have. If you go over to over the Fort Union Center there where J-Dogs and Chili's is and all that, they have a four-way intersection there, and that thing is busy all day long. If you ever sat in J-Dogs and ate a hot dog, you'd see how busy that is, and it handles that traffic just fine. So maybe the thought of to just turn that into a three-way stop sign. That way people can stop, go, and not have to sit there for a dumb traffic light. So, but I would like to say, you guys, I feel like you guys are doing a great job. We appreciate our police force. After watching that AG's report, it was amazing the restraint that they showed. Absolutely amazing. And I'll reiterate, I was there. I watched the whole thing from start to finish, and what they reported was exactly what happened. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for your attendance tonight. Paula, who's next?
Roseanne Newell.
Roseanne, welcome.
Thank you. My take on this is I have lived in this area for 56 years, long before it was Cottonwood Heights. When we first moved in, it was just a dirt road, but we've lived here, we've loved it, we've raised our family here. But to be perfectly honest, I am seriously troubled by all of the contention that was caused by my council person in this area as of August the 2nd. It does not necessarily seem Cottonwood Heights is the nice place to live anymore. It also appears that my council member has a personal agenda against the Cottonwood Heights police and is stirring up this contention. The protest was in a very nice neighborhood, and many of those people did not like the language, etc., that was displayed there. You know, we have to remember their children. The language was terrible, and what was going on was very frightening. Apparently, they were protesting the shooting of a boy who had robbed 2 places at gunpoint and was running away from the police and not cooperating. I think it's really sad when someone loses their life, no question, but it's also very sad when police try to do their jobs and then they're criticized. We would be at a huge loss without our police department, and I believe we should support them. I've had nothing but positive things to say about our police department. I've met the chief. I appreciate, he's always been very kind to me. I appreciate everything that he does. And I think that this lawlessness, it's contagious. It's going across the whole country. I believe that our council should work together, not against each other. The police department and the city council, it's all together. We need to work together so that we can be the Cottonwood Heights that we love and we should love. I appreciate what you do trying to accomplish this. I also thank you for the work that you have done. And I hope that our city council and our police department can get back together again so that Cottonwood Heights can be the best place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Roseanne, for joining us. Appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
I have James and Kimi Stojak.
Welcome. James or Kimmy, whoever's speaking.
No, it's Kimmy. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Kimmy. Welcome.
Thank you. I just have a quote. Thomas Jefferson said, "Law is often but the tyrant's will, and always so when it violates the rights of the individual. The care of human life and happiness, not their destruction, is the first and only charter of good government." And I've got here the law enforcement oath of honor. On my honor, I will never betray my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always maintain the highest ethical standards and uphold the values of my community and the agency I serve. Now I've got a question. Is it ethical for the chief to donate to city official campaigns, or would you consider it a favor? Is it ethical for an officer to call me and my husband using a fake name to call and harass us 10 plus years, and we're still getting harassed by this police department? I also find it very disturbing and unethical that the AG's office would for a minute do a fair investigation on the August 2nd peaceful protest. First of all, our AG lives in Cottonwood Heights. Second, he's known for years what has been going on in this city and promised to help once they put him in office. Not to mention he was friends that he told us with the ex-mayor and our chief of police. Now it's all starting to make sense. When my husband and I met with the DOJ back when we still had the Canyon Inn before the police department ran us out of business, he told my husband, "Know this, Jim, Utah is far more corrupt than 60s Chicago." Not only are we witnessing and living this in Utah, it has bled into our city and on the hands of our city officials of Cottonwood Heights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kimmy. Paula, who's next?
Susan Despain.
Susan, welcome. You need to unmute yourself, Susan. There you
Okay,
go.
can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Go right ahead. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was a rough one to follow. I'm on tonight because I am so proud to live in Cottonwood Heights and so proud of our police force and the restraint they use and how they can keep law and order. I don't know that under the circumstances that they were under that I could have performed as well as they did. And it made me very proud to see those videos. I was in Montana when that protest occurred, and to see on national news my hometown and to see what was going on, it made me feel like we were following in the steps of Seattle and Portland, where there is so much anarchy that is trying to divide us and so that we can't stand together. And they do that through fear and intimidation. And I was very disappointed in that. As I've researched, tried to find more information out about it, I've come to find that I do support the police. I think they were unfairly targeted. I think the media unfairly targeted them. And I don't think it's right that our city councilwoman would instigate that divisiveness amongst us, because united we stand. We do not need that. We can work together. We can have differences of opinion. And I just wanted to reiterate that I'm very, very proud to live in Cottonwood Heights and to have the city council and mayor that we have and the police force that we do. And I support you wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate those comments and you taking the time tonight to join us. Paula, who's next?
Terry Glad.
Terry, welcome. Go ahead, Terry. Go ahead, Terry.
I've lived in this community since 1955. I raised my family here, and this is my home. I have followed this matter very closely and come to believe that Tally Bruce does not have the values that the city we need. Her actions for several weeks before August 2nd and her involvement in the protest on August 2nd were totally inappropriate and divisive. We need better leadership than she has displayed. And I appreciate the time you've given me. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Paula, who's next?
Randall Alfonson.
Randall, welcome. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I wasn't going to make comments, but I heard the people talking about the riot that occurred, talking about it in kind words. As I often do, my son and I go for bike rides to Mill Hollow Park and stuff, and we like quiet Sunday afternoons. It's a great time to do it. On that day, we were on our bikes and got caught in the middle of that riot. I'm only grateful that my younger daughter wasn't there because we were pretty afraid. It was, in fact, as soon as I found an opening in the crowd that was yelling vulgarities at us, things that I didn't want my 11-year-old son to hear, I found a gap and I sent him home and immediately told him to tell his mom to stay in the house, lock the doors, and call someone for help because I was afraid for them. And I just positioned myself between this riot and my house so I could keep an eye on it. During that time, people had megaphones yelling profanities in trucks. It was really scary. They were yelling all kinds of things at me just because of the color of my skin. I'm white. Okay. I was born that way. I had no choice. So they're calling me racist. They're calling me homophobe. They're calling me all kinds of things. They have no idea about me. And then when I found out that my councilwoman, Tally Bruce, had a part of this, I don't know if I was more embarrassed or angered, probably a little more angered than anything. And just ashamed that my councilwoman who had any part of this, she should immediately recuse herself as councilwoman. She does not represent my my ideals, anything about me, nor any of my neighbors that I've spoken with. So I don't know why she's still there. And I just wish she had enough integrity to just leave. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Randall. Appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
Ashley Rollins.
Ashley, welcome.
Hi, I just want to speak real quickly on behalf of the younger people in Cottonwood Heights area, the younger families. I first just want to say how much I appreciate the police officers in our community and how much they've done. I don't think that they've been getting enough appreciation lately for the fact that we get to go to bed and feel safe. I also want to say that I live on 6710 and I got to witness those fun times in August, and I was one of the moms cupping her triracial son's ears while profanities were playing down the road off of megaphones, F the police. Super inappropriate. To me, that's not a peaceful protest. I feel like the person representing me in my community should be trying to make the community a better place, not trying to destroy it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
Troy Ripplinger.
Troy, welcome.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to thank the police chief and all of the officers that work underneath him for the work that they did in our neighborhood recently to keep things safe. I don't want to go into too much detail, but the efforts and the work that they did, very grateful for it. In referencing the council member of the 3rd District, I don't expect her to step aside. Anyone who had the moral decency to do so wouldn't have done what she already has done. Narcissist or egotistical or who knows what. My petition is to the remaining council members and the mayor. Thank you for your service. Thank you for enduring her behavior. And I'm asking if perhaps you may take whatever legal actions possible just to kind of isolate her if she doesn't want to step down, so that she doesn't have to affect our city any more than she already has. We can kind of get back to some normalcy. I just want to thank you for all you guys. Thank you for all you've done. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Troy. Paula, who's next?
I have Brett Webster.
Welcome, Brett.
Thank you. I'm here. Thank you so much. I want you to hear me. I am hurting listening to these comments from our community, in that it seems to me, honestly, we're repeating a centuries old legacy of white people mischaracterizing what's going on here. The fact that we have kind of, all of our speakers here tonight are kind of missing the fact that, I mean, there was the largest movement in American history. 26 million people actually participated in last summer's movement. And yet all we can do is sit here and decry someone who had the courage to support that. And I'm just hurting because we're just continuing this centuries-long legacy of that. We're missing the magnitude of the moment. And this is a time, listen to Mike Brown, chief in Salt Lake. Look, policing evolves, policing changes. This is a time of change. Why are we, let's not just, miss that point. The evolution needs to happen. There has been profound inequity. There are genuine issues going on here. People fear when their children get pulled over by the police. And we and the speakers tonight, we're just missing that and dismissing the anger of an entire segment of society. There are times to change. We can grow. Okay, the easiest thing in the world we can do is sit here and dismiss Tally Bruce, but she actually has shown a lot of courage. And I don't see any black faces on here tonight. Where is our ability to reach out and listen? Just a tiny fraction. I'm asking the community and the leadership team here to consider that. The police chief Russo, consider that. Cottonwood Heights is developing a bit of a reputation. We don't need that. So let's thank you for the time, and this is a time when we can strive for improvement. Gang, even if our community is mostly white, we can still recognize inequity when we see it, and we can strive for improvement. These causes are legitimate. And the easiest thing in the world is to just stamp our foot and say, I support the chief of police for keeping us safe. Well, yes, but the fact is there are also things bigger than that going on right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
Ed Schwartz.
Welcome, Ed. Go ahead, Ed. Need to unmute yourself. Ed, you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can. Go ahead, Ed.
Good. All right. I wasn't planning on speaking this evening, but I decided to throw my hat in the ring after hearing other voices. And democracy is predicated upon different opinions, and it's defined mostly by its leaders and the voices that our leaders carry. Lyndon Johnson said, doing what is right isn't the problem. It is knowing what is right. And I do question the chief on knowing what is right. Let's take a look at the report that the AG provided us. Months and months down the road, we had an August happening, and we did not get a report until May. There are a lot of questions about the leadership provided in our local police department, which everyone seems to be avoiding and just praising Chief Russo for the stellar job. Well, I do question this because the officers on that date, they could have handled it much differently. I'm not saying that the people marching did not use obscene language and possibly were trying to do certain things, but leadership requires delegation of proper communication, and that did not happen. That got out of hand, and let's just say the facts, because I am not buying the AG's report. I'm sorry. I do agree with Kimmy Canyon on that. I do not buy that, what had happened. And the leadership has been questioned for years in Cottonwood Heights, yet we sit back and hold the chief in praise for the great leadership, making about $250,000 combined with his health insurance and everything else. We have a fleet of cars that we get every 2 years while other projects are going on. I do question what is happening in Cottonwood Heights, and I do question the leadership in Cottonwood Heights at this moment. We have projects that need to be questioned, not just the police department, but as was brought up by another resident, we're building on fault lines. But I do question the chief and his leadership style. That needs to be brought up, but we have done nothing but allowed him to live rent-free in Cottonwood Heights right now without any retribution. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
John Breakbill.
Welcome, John.
Hi, everyone hear me okay?
Yes, go right ahead.
So some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm on social media quite a bit. I spend a lot of time on there, belong to various groups, try to look at all opinions. I moved here almost 6 years ago now. I grew up in Southern California, in the ghettos of Northeast Los Angeles. So first and foremost, a lot of you have not lived or really been terrified or have experienced what it means to really be terrified. I'll just start off with that. Second, I'm going to read what I posted. It's online. It's on the group. Everyone can go and see it, and I'll just read it verbatim. I'd like to thank the officers and our chief of our beloved city. They demonstrated professionalism and acceptance towards non-peaceful, violent protesters. I'm rather appalled by the lack of professionalism on the council member involved. It appears, though, the council member was an agitator and used her position of power to overstep the authority given to her by the voters of that district. I can only hope that we as a city can move forward and not let a few bad apples from one tree spoil what makes our community great. For the people of District 3, all I can say is your time to vote will be coming soon. Use it appropriately and use it wisely. I listen to this rhetoric all day from people that want to question, people that race bait. And again, this is what I do is I'm on social media quite a bit. And I would just ask the council, police chief, officers, men and women of our city, ignore the rhetoric. This is not the place for it. Ignore what people say. Those are just a handful of people that are trying to agitate, that are trying to get people to overstep and push you towards a limit that there's no reason to go to. It's not worth the time or the effort. I'll keep it short and sweet and simple. Again, Mayor, thank you very much. City Council, thank you very much. People of District 3, use your vote accordingly. And that's all I can say as far as that goes. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments. Paul, who's next?
Steve Wall.
Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. There's a lot that can be said, as always, and there's never enough time. I guess I'm somewhat troubled by some of the remarks about what I guess these overstatements, if you will, about policing in our community. The people almost to a person, and I've said this before, that's why I'm even reluctant to be on here. This thing turns into a dog and pony show with some of these people. But I witnessed it. The neighbors on my street that witnessed it found the behavior of those people were quote unquote protesting, and I'm not sure I would characterize as protesting. We're just completely out of hand. This wasn't protesting. You could ask anybody on my street. Not one of them could tell you what the message was. If there was some message that they were trying to convey, no one heard it or understood it or knew. What they did see, it wasn't just bad language, it was bad behavior, it was threatening, it was menacing. And a council person who had no business participating as she did, she should have been trying to get them to comply with what the city was allowing them to do, which was well beyond what they should have allowed them, because they weren't supposed to be in the streets, they were supposed to be in the sidewalks. But of course, that wouldn't have been made quite the splash that they wanted to make. So she got involved, and I saw footage in that video that I hadn't seen before that was even more inflammatory in terms of Councilwoman Bruce's conduct than I had even imagined. And then the interesting thing that many of you don't know and probably didn't see, but moments after that, her show, if you will, I mean, her claim of being assaulted and the trauma that she was experiencing and witnessing. And this is literally seconds. She walks by me and some others there, and with an incredibly happy disposition, and says, and looks right at us and says, "Isn't this wonderful, all this community awareness?" That comment was so out of hand in the context of what I hadn't seen the extent of the video, but what I saw. So it was just, not only was it completely disingenuous, it was hypocritical. Her intent was to do nothing but to provoke an encounter with the police. And that's what happened. The police were far more restrained than they should have been. And to Brett, who I heard earlier, you haven't lived long enough, Brett. If you'd lived in a different time in the 60s, that we saw really violence and attacks on the police and our institutions. And these same claims that you make, you without even knowing anything about you, you're obviously a young man, an idealistic man, but you need to read a little more history. Policing is not some there's nothing incredibly unique about it. It has a place and it needs to serve in that place, and it does in this community, and that is protecting the citizens of this city. And I thank the council members and the police chief for doing an exceptional job in how they have dealt with this situation on August 2nd and the following investigation.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your comments. Paula, who's next?
I have, oh, I'm sorry, I lost Larry. Patsy Young.
Patsy, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just have a prepared statement here, but before I read it, I'd just like to say thank you, Mayor Peterson and City Council, for all you do. And especially thank you to Chief Russo for keeping on in spite of a lot of problems that you've had to face in the last few years. Thank you. Okay, I've lived in this area for many years, 49 to be exact. Before incorporation, the city was county governed. But when the idea of turning our little township into an actual city was proposed, the many aspects of having more localized government were really appealing. The first few incorporated years were mostly peaceful and pleasant. Then, when the candidates for city council were introduced a few years ago, I met Tally Bruce and asked her why she wanted to be a council member. The part of her reply I remember most was that we had only men and she wanted to, quote unquote, shake things up. I was not impressed with that or other things she said and didn't vote for her. But she won, and little did I know that shake things up meant that she wanted to get rid of our police. In the many years before we had our own police, we didn't have the response and interest in our problems here like we have had with our own CHP. I can't understand why someone would want to make our city less safe. The turmoil that she has caused in our community with her vendetta against the police, bringing riots and unpeaceful protests here, is disgusting, even outrageous. Why are we tolerating these terrorist tactics? Now that Attorney General Reyes' office has investigated and found the CHP innocent of Tally's accusations, it's time she was held accountable. I'm asking you, Natalie, to resign. If that doesn't happen, I'm asking the council if they will please take whatever actions are necessary to remove you from your position and hold you accountable for your actions. We need to learn this, that we need to learn from this. We have to be very careful when electing our local leaders. They can have a tremendous impact on our lives. I believe most of the office holders in our city have been responsible, honest people with the best interest of the citizens as their motivation. Let's right the problem by ridding the city council of this destructive influence. Thank you.
Thank you, Patsy. And just a quick note to our audience, based upon the 1 hour limit, we have about 10 more minutes of public comments and we'll close public comment. I mean, citizen comments, yeah. Paula, who's next?
David Rollins.
David Rawlings, go ahead. Welcome, David. You have to unmute yourself, David.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Peterson. I'm grateful for the opportunity just to say a few words. I have lived on the East Coast. I've lived on the West Coast. I've lived in major cities. Let me just say, Cottonwood Heights is one of the greatest places to live. You know, I hear negativity, I hear criticism from several, and I'm just saying, hey, this is really, truly a great place to live. And I think we need to be more respectful of some of our leaders here. I think we have great leadership for the most part. I've met several of you, and I am so impressed by the many things that you do and the time that you devote to our great city. I think, Ed, the reason why Chief Russo is receiving so much praise tonight is because it's coming from the residents where the protest actually took place. And I think we shouldn't forget about that. I mean, you know, these residents who happen to be my neighbors had this protest that was pretty much pushed upon them. They didn't ask for it. It happened, and they had to deal with it. And they should not have had to have dealt with all of this negativity, this poor language. I think if you go back 30 years, I don't know that police would have put up with that type of vulgar language and disrespect that they had to put up to deal with in this particular protest. I think we need to praise our police department and the work that they do, because I think they truly, truly love Cottonwood Heights and want this to be a safe place for everybody to live. And I think we all have to realize that there are far worse places to live in this country. And I've been there and I've seen it. And I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the leadership that we have. And I said, thank you. Appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your comments and joining us tonight. Paula, who's next?
Debbie McIntosh.
Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to direct my comments concerning the recent AG's report of August 2020. Thank you for requesting it to be done so that the light shines on the truth. And sometimes the truth takes a little time to figure out. I was so impressed with the thoroughness and integrity of their investigation. They gathered great information. The videos were very informational. I watched it and was so sad to think that there are people who choose to disregard law and order and seem to think that they're above the law. It's upsetting to think that there are people who want their own way no matter who gets hurt because they choose to disrespect the law. The integrity of the Cottonwood Heights police officers and the kindness of Chief Russo, as he took care of some that he saw were in needed of extra care, is amazing. It was impressive. So much of the opposite of what we saw from many attending the rally. We have such an amazing PD and chief with great leadership skills. Our police officers have been trained and are continually sharpening their skills for what is needed in a situation like the one that was happening, and they were truly amazing. People who want to cause chaos will always hit a wall with truth and integrity, and will choose to be unaccountable and not see their own part in the chaos they create and their own issues. I believe this is the case with Councilwoman Bruce. And we do not have the same issues as other places in the nation. What is happening here is what we should be dealing with here. I agree that with the letter from the Fraternal Order of Police encouraging Councilwoman Tally Bruce to step down. It's clear that she and a few other leaders of those attending the rally were pushing to get video footage and hoping to create chaos so that the police would be charged with being unhinged. This is not the case. They were not unhinged. They were amazing. It was clear that many in the crowd were totally out of control, including her. It was obvious. Councilwoman Bruce, it is clear that you have your own agenda and that you have little concern for what is the best interest of the issues of our city. Please step down so that Cottonwood Heights City Council and Mayor can attend to the important city business. We need to respect our leaders and look for the good. This is terrible that people are trying to tear down these awesome agencies that protect us. Thank you, Cottonwood Heights Police Department. Thank you, Chief Russo, and thank you, City Council and Mayor.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, I think we got time for two more. Paula, who's next?
I have Larry Turner.
Larry, go ahead. Go ahead, Larry. You have to unmute yourself. There you go. Go ahead, Larry. Just unmute yourself. There, now.
Sir, can you hear us?
Larry, can you hear us? Paul, let's go to the next one and see if we can bring Larry on the last one. Larry?
I have Raven James.
Raven James, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Hi, this is Aiden Leifeld Ellinger.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And I think Cottonwood Heights has the potential to be on the list of one of the greatest places in America to live. It has the mountains. It has a good, clean community. It has so much going for it, including leadership that is wanting to push forward and make change and clean up some of the issues that have been happening in Cottonwood Heights, and that is Tally Bruce. And I think that instead of beating her down because we're all very resistant to change apparently, and we don't like to be attacked for our problems, which is a very normal thing, I think we need to support Tally and look to our future and decide that we want to move forward and create a place that feels safe from the police, with the police. I'm not saying we don't need police, but I am saying we clearly have a problem with our police chief and our police department, and even some of the council members. Just the way that I've even heard the conversations directed towards Tally, that is bullying. It is, in elementary school would not accept that. I don't know why we accept it in government. So it's, I want to recommend Cottonwood Heights as a good place to live, but right now it's not quite there, So I'm just hoping that we can move forward and we can clean up some of the problems and address the problems like Chief Russo and create a better place for everyone to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden. Appreciate your comments. Paula, we have one more. Who is it going to be? This will be our last.
David Stevenson.
David, welcome.
Thank you. First off, I want to apologize in advance for the possible shakiness in my voice. I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight, but the whole situation has me pretty frustrated, as I'm sure it does many others. I just want to start off with this. So regarding the AG's report, I want anyone who has an opinion to think on this. If a friend of mine was accused of wrongdoing, would you ask me to look into their affairs and trust I would provide a fair and unbiased report? I'm assuming the answer is no, clearly. So why would you trust an ex-police officer would accurately portray current police officers and their intentions? Why would you trust the AG, who has personal ties to Cottonwood Heights and the police force, would condemn his own friends? And outside of that, I've heard many people tonight use their age or length of residency in Cottonwood Heights as a reason to be trusted. If you take a step out of Cottonwood Heights every once in a while, try bringing up CHPD. You'll hear a near unanimous response, which is negative. I've spoke with family, friends, and random people as well, who all laugh at the mention of CHPD and its integrity. Keep in mind, these responses have came from people of various backgrounds, whether that be pro-police, anti-police, judges, and from the mouths of active police officers themselves. If length of residency is what's going to be the determining factor for people to trust a statement, consider this. My 90-year-old great-grandmother, my 60-year-old grandma and grandpa, and the majority of my family all lived in Cottonwood Heights most of their lives before it was the Cottonwood Heights we know today. All of them are pro-police, and yet all of them are anti-Cottonwood Heights police. It's kind of hard to tell whether that be due to unjust killings, illegal traffic stops, or transparent corruption with business as a whole and individuals. Regarding Tally Bruce and her stepping down, a lot of the comments made tonight are the fact that she doesn't represent someone's current beliefs or their moral system, whatever that may be. Good. That's the whole point of democracy. If we had everyone who sided with your beliefs be in every position of power, that would be fascism, literally. So, I mean, Tally Bruce is a person too. She might be a councilwoman, but she is a person first and foremost. So that being said, that doesn't make it unjust for her to be at rallies, any sort of talks, anything like that, just because she's a council member in Cottonwood Heights. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
David, thank you. Okay, we're going to close off our citizen comment period. And before we move to our next item on the agenda, I know we've had Mr. Bracken and Ms. Councilmember Bruce make a comment. As a mayor, I'd like to make a comment. Many have said today and previously that it's a time to move on and heal. That's something that's paramount to me. And they also talked about successful organizations are evolving. I think we do have an outstanding police department. We have an outstanding planning department, an outstanding financial department, outstanding public works department. But quality organizations of any kind, and I've been in public service for 50 years and I'm old and I admit it, quality organizations are always changing and adapting and improving. Now, as a city council, earlier this year, after a difficult last year, we met and we recognized there are some things that are evolving in our own organization in every department. But tonight's subject is kind of centered on our police. And there's some things that we've worked with our city council, and everyone's been involved in this discussion, and including our police chief. And there's some things that we are implementing going forward to help us heal. One of those things is that we will be implementing a police citizens advisory board, so that once that board is created and in place, it will represent citizens and have that communication with our police. And I've been someone who's worked in community-oriented policing before, and I think this will facilitate that. So that's one thing that's happening. Two, and we're always doing this, but we'll continue to focus on increase implicit bias training, diversity and de-escalation training for all of our officers. We've done this in the past. We'll continue to review it. You saw it in the budget tonight to do more of that. That's coming. We will hold regular meetings with diversity leaders in Utah who promote racial equality and equity and social justice. Just last week, I met personally representing our city with a group of Muslims, and it was enlightening. And they advocated, wow, we just want to educate you. Well, we're meeting with them. We've met with some other groups already. We'll be meeting with more, and we've been doing that. Also, our police department has additional efforts they've recently doing, which include meeting with legal advisors and reviewing every use of force and formal complaint that we have towards our police and to any department. Auditing random police encounters and evaluating reports and body camera video to assess our officers. That's happening. Training each officer to care for people who have autism. That's something we're adding. And working with UPD on Project Safeguard, an online roster that helps officers interact with people who have mental health disorders. That's just a sample. And my point being, as I read through that, and I've been asking for that in my regular reports, is that successful organizations are always changing. I think we have great organizations in our city. I think, we've had 25 comments today, and many of you mentioned about a great place to live. Well, it's because of having this feedback. It's because of evolving. It's because of always striving for improvement, which we will continue to do. And lastly, and I've heard several say that on the council and our people in public comments, it really is time to move on and heal. But at the same time, we want you to continue to give us feedback. Let us know what we're doing well. Let us know what things we can improve on, and we'll continue to look at ways to become better. So anyway, appreciate all the public comments tonight. Appreciate the city council. It's a job that has a lot of challenges, but we do it because of a desire to serve. We don't do these as full-time careers, to say the least. With that being said, I'm going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public comment on a rezone request. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike Johnson to introduce this rezone request that's, I think, in District 3 on Fort Union Boulevard.
Thank you, Mayor. You pull up the presentation here and I'll give an overview of this. And the applicant has joined us tonight as well. I think he's prepared a statement for the council after the staff presentation.
Okay.
So this is a request that was heard by the Planning Commission in our second April meeting. So the third Wednesday in April, I believe. So about a month ago. This is a request to amend the zoning map. So a zone change request from R18 to residential office. And I forgot to add the property here. 2751 Fort Union Boulevard is where we're talking here. So here's some context. It's just east of Virginia Hills Drive on Fort Union. Just on a screen here is 2700 East. So just a couple houses to the west. There's a church building and then Butler Elementary School. So it's up the hill on Fort Union heading towards Big Cottonwood Canyon. Again, here is the current property. It's a residential home with a home office business license issued for it, meaning the resident is operating a business out of that address, which is allowed anywhere in residential zoning districts in the city. Here's some land use and zoning context. The existing zoning, as you can see, is R18. The property is a little bit unique in that it fronts directly onto Fort Union and has no access from any neighborhood interior street. So it solely fronts on Fort Union Boulevard. The land use map, which is in the general plan, which guides us in making recommendations for zone change requests and other legislative matters. The land use map for this property is identified as residential office. So the general plan anticipates residential office on this property. That's what it recommends. So the proposed zoning to switch to residential office does comply with what our general plan says. You will remember not very long ago, we went through a city initiated land use map amendment on Fort Union Boulevard east of 2700 East. This was the map that was in place prior to that amendment in 2019. Since city incorporation, the long range land use designation for the properties on this area was mixed use, which allows for really any commercial use in the city. It allows for residential. It's a very flexible zone with full commercial uses. In January 19, that was amended, and I believe part of the what drove this amendment was the approval of a retail shop up the street a little further. It's a ski rental shop. There were some concerns whether that mixed use land use fit the area well or not. That ended up being approved with zoning conditions limiting certain uses and is now a ski rental shop and office today. But the council then directed staff to prepare a zone or a land use map amendment to look at all the properties on Fort Union in this area. So we did that. And at the time we recommended for a majority of those properties that they be amended from mixed use back down to low density residential. However, we did identify certain properties because of their layout and their location and access directly onto Fort Union Boulevard and no neighborhood streets, that some properties could retain a residential office land use designation. And this was one of those properties. So you can see the dark purple properties were the ones that were retained as residential office. All of the other properties were amended to low density residential. Some more context on this particular property. There has been a home business license active on this property, except for a short gap when the property was sold since incorporation. For most of the city's history, it was a home occupation with clients for a travel agency. And in 2018, the current applicant purchased the property and has been using it as a home occupation with clients for an insurance office. I won't go through all of these, but these are all of the allowed uses in the residential office zone. I should clarify, this is much different than the mixed use zone that we considered previously. There is no primary retail uses are not allowed in the residential office zone, meaning a restaurant or a retail store or anything like that would not be allowed. The residential office zone is mainly geared towards low impact administrative or professional office uses, studios, daycare facilities in some cases. You can see the list here, and residential uses as well. So twin homes, planned unit developments, mixed use buildings with office and residential. And then every use in the RO zone, if the zoning exists, is a conditional use except for a single family dwelling. Meaning if the zone change were approved, any new use or change of use from what it is today would go back through planning commission and public hearing. We anticipate sometimes in these rezones a concern of, maybe the current building is okay, but what if the property were to be redeveloped? Under today's conditions, if the zone change was approved for this property and the other properties around it remained as is, the setbacks for a brand new building are shown in yellow there. They're very restrictive. So 25 feet on all sides, 30 feet in the rear yard. You can see this little sliver in the middle is the only area a residential office building could be constructed today. Obviously, the existing building is there. That would be allowed to remain. but it would not be allowed to be substantially modified or added to without coming into compliance with the current setbacks. And then additionally, if there is commercial use on the second story of a residential office building, any setback to the nearest residential property must equal the height of the building. So if the building's 30 feet tall, these 25-foot setbacks would then be increased to 30 feet. I should clarify, none of this is proposed yet. This is just theoretical. I know this is a concern that we've heard in the past.
Mike, can I ask you a question? Would that apply even if someone had the R zone and wanted to build another single family home? Those setbacks would still apply?
Technically, yes. Now, if the properties, these two properties to the east and west, their land use designation is also residential office. If a zone change were to occur there, I believe this 25-foot setback is reduced to 10 feet. Which still matches a standard residential setback. So we presented this a very similar presentation, same findings, same recommendation to the Planning Commission on April 21st. And the commission voted to forward a recommendation of denial to the City Council. The concerns that they expressed primarily were they were concerned about creating pocket zoning with segments facing Fort Union, and that request felt like an encroachment into a residential area. We need to clarify that there's often a misconception that zone change on a single lot or pocket zoning is illegal or improper. That's not the case. There's nothing illegal or improper about it. In fact, we put a lot more weight behind the general plan and the land use map than we do about a single property zoning or anything like that. But that was the Planning Commission's expressed concern. There were no public comments, either written or received during the Planning Commission meeting. So no public concerns. This concern came specifically from the Planning Commission. And this is staff's recommendation. Again, this is the same recommendation that was presented to the Planning Commission at that meeting before the decision was made. However, we do stand by this. When we consider any rezone or zone change as staff and making a recommendation, the very first place we go is the general plan and the land use map. And in almost every case I can remember, if the land use map is compatible with the proposed zoning, that indicates that the city's long range plan, it wants us to move that direction. So we often agree with that approach, especially in this case where we have just recently amended the land use in this area. Both from this council and many of the same planning commissioners that are on today's commission. We felt this was an appropriate zone change request. So here are staff's findings that I'll just read into the record. The proposed zoning is consistent with the goals of the general plan and the land use map, even though the land use map amended in 2019. We sent notices to owners of property within 1,000 feet of the subject property. It's quite an extensive notice. We held a public hearing and no comments or concerns were expressed by any members of the public. Back during the land use map amendment process, there were concerns raised, it says by the council, I believe it was by some members of the Planning Commission, that the change in land use down to low density would lead to some of these properties that front directly onto Fort Union Boulevard that do not have neighborhood access to deteriorate over time. A property fronting on Fort Union Boulevard, a road that, over time it has grown busier and has a little more traffic capacity, is potentially less desirable than purchasing or owning a single family home in a neighborhood. And we've seen that certainly farther west on Fort Union Boulevard. We're starting to see redevelopment of rental properties. So there was a concern expressed at the time that eliminating any potential commercial use in the area could lead to absentee landlord rental situations. So the proposed land use of residential office and then this proposed zoning could improve that long-term viability of this specific property and make sure that investment stays high. This property can only be accessed from Fort Union Boulevard. There's no frontage or access from neighborhood streets. You can see the lot is a unique shape. It's a very deep lot. So the rear setback right now is 100 feet or something like that. It's a large lot, and the building is close to Fort Union Boulevard. Setback requirements in the residential office zone are designed to provide a buffer between any new building addition or commercial development and existing residential zones, as was illustrated. And then property has previously been licensed for business use since incorporation, and that we can recall, and based on our records, we've never received any concerns or complaints regarding the business use of this property, both as a travel agency and now as an insurance office. So we certainly respect the Planning Commission, and this is their role, is to take public comment, to hold public hearings and make recommendations. Just given staff's objective analysis, we feel it is still appropriate to maintain our recommendation of approval based on the findings I just detailed there. But understanding that now we have split recommendations, we did not schedule this for action tonight. So we're here to hold public comment. I'm happy to answer any questions. And then between now and the next meeting, happy to address any additional concerns that are raised.
I think because we're meeting virtually, I think the applicant's here to make a comment too.
He is. Paula, it is Lance Paulson, if you can add him in.
Lance, go ahead, take a couple minutes if you'd like.
Thank you very much, Mayor Peterson and council members. I appreciate your time. Thank you for letting me present this to you. And thank you so much, Mike, for a wonderful presentation, probably better than what I'm going to deliver here. But I felt it necessary to present again, because there have been some new facts and information since last month's meeting, and it was likely a challenge for the Planning Commission to make a fully objective decision without some of those facts and information that we just discussed this evening. And first, or next, I love working and living in Cottonwood Heights. It's being along Fort Union Boulevard is a wonderful place. There's a lot of visibility, and I love the progress and the vision to have a kind of a mild, low impact work-live community that's very attractive and very desirable right now. It seems my neighbors and my fellow community members approve of that. We haven't had any negative comments, any concerns, zero protests, and zero complaints. In fact, we've got two of my neighbors and fellow community members here in support of and may raise their hand to give a positive comment. And it seems there's other roads that may be considered more residential that already have mixed use space, such as on 3000 East, facing east. And mine is a much busier road, and it's not going to have mixed use space. I'm proposing, hopefully, with your consideration and your approval, the RO space. So in the past, and as I was doing some of the research, the Planning Commission actually recommended approval of the RO zoning, which was then unanimously approved by the City Council. And I love this. It shows progress and vision and growth, and I think that's what cities are all about. It's moving in the right direction of what the public wants and what the general plan is forecasting. And then furthermore, it's protecting the viability and the appearance of some of these properties along a very visible road to make sure they don't get run down. They're upkept and well maintained, as I have done on mine and plan on doing. And ultimately, without this approval, it's really hard for me to grow my business, because right now I live there, I have to live there, and I can only have one team member or employee there. If I want to grow my business, I'm going to have to sell it or keep it and figure out something else with it. I can't have more than one employee there. And even though I have other locations, this is my primary county. Is where my business started, was in the Midvale, Cottonwood Heights area, and it's where I want to stay and where I want to grow. So that's a big motivation for me, is to have this so I can grow my business and therefore hopefully employ more people in Cottonwood Heights and contribute to the community, spend money in Cottonwood Heights, and my team spend money in Cottonwood Heights, and so forth. Ultimately, this seems like it's positive for everyone, for the community members, my neighbors. Again, there's only approval, there's zero complaints, there's an upside for all. So I'm not asking the council members in the city to make any exceptions, rather than simply approve what's already been in the plan and already approved. So thank you again. I appreciate my time.
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate you taking the time and waiting to join us this evening. Any final questions or comments from the council before we open it up to public comment?
Mayor, I've got a quick question for Mike. In 2019, when that zoning change was made, were signatures gathered?
I would need to look into the process. It's a city initiated change. So I believe the process is providing notice of everybody affected by the change and making sure they have the opportunity to attend public hearings and provide their input. I don't think it requires a petition where it's a city initiated request.
Right, not currently, but in 2019, can you find out if I seem to remember that happening?
I can look, but we would have followed I think the procedure hasn't changed much, where we provide written notice to all of the affected properties. We provide adequate lead time and then hold public hearings, but I will find out.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Remember the genesis of this tally was Lynn Krause came to us repeatedly and asked that when we did the zoning up the street, she says, don't you think some of this should change? And we agreed that it probably should. And that's when we started to do that process. So I don't know about the signature gathering, but that was this particular area.
Yeah, I remember that. It was Lynn. Yeah.
Thank you for those comments. All right, Paula, anyone who would like to speak to the rezone request for 2751 Fort Union Boulevard? Daniel, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for hearing me tonight. I just make this quick. I just wanted to come in support of Lance because I've known him for a long time, and I've been a resident of Cottonwood Heights for the last 4 years. I love it. It's a great place to be. And I think what Mr. Paulson is going to add to the community will only benefit all of us. And he's a good man. I've known him for 20 years and actually a little more than 20 years. And anyway, just wanted to make my voice heard that I'm all in favor of the rezone and hope and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you taking the time to join us and your comments. Paula, someone else would like to speak regarding the rezone request? David Thornton, go ahead, David.
Hey, everybody. I've lived in Cottonwood Heights for 19 years. I live on Coventry Lane, just east of the rec center. Lance insures a couple properties that I own, and it's so nice to be able to drive 2 minutes from my house and walk into my insurance agent's office. And I just love how clean the place is and how he takes care of it. And I just support a local business owner running a business and taking care of a property in the neighborhood I've been a part of for 19 years. So I totally support it too. This has been a really fun, I've never been a part of one of these things. So it's been kind of a wild ride to hear everything that's gone on. And I'm glad I could be here, and you guys are all awesome. Thanks for what you do for the city. I know I definitely have been on the other side of having police officers come to my house, but that was 20 years ago. And now it's just fun how times change and how growth is there. And go Lance, I hope that it all works out for the rezone, and I support what the decision is. So thanks for having me, and look forward to more.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your comments tonight. Paula, someone else? Mr. Hammond again? Yep.
Yeah, I just like to say that as a developer, I like when local people come in and spend their money to want to improve the city and build. And that Fort Union area is all of that is going to end up being commercial. It just has to be with the amount of traffic that's on there. And so the fact that there were no public comments from the people that live around there is a real positive sign to me that the people that live around there would like to have that come into play. If they didn't want it there, trust me, they'd be on here mentioning that they wouldn't want it. They don't want it there. So I'm pleased that, and I also like that this, being that this is going to be an insurance office, it's going to be low impact on that area. So you don't have to worry about tons and tons of people coming and going or lots of employees or all that. It's nice that it's going to be low impact, well taken care of. And the fact that Lance has people coming on saying good things about him, I think is a good thing. I don't know Lance, but it sounds like this will be a positive thing for our city. We're lucky when people want to spend their money in our city to make it better and develop it and do all those kinds of things, because it's not cheap. It is not cheap to do what he's doing. So I give 2 thumbs up. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments again. Paul or someone else? Okay, I think that's all we have for public comment on rezone for 2751 East for Union Boulevard. So we will close our public comment period.
May I make one statement or request in respect to this going forward?
Yeah.
Just the way that I will be looking at it. And I understand people like Lance. And with respect to that, we do have to look long term on what could happen. I appreciate Mike's putting up that. What could they currently do if they build a new building there? And I think there's protections that are in place there. The other thing that I might ask my fellow council members to consider is, I know that zoning conditions are possible within the R zone. While he may be doing an insurance office, that doesn't mean whoever in the future may want to continue that. The only one that really concerns me for that particular area are the ones that are listed under A, which are similar to what we have on Highland Drive. And so maybe as we discuss this or we move forward next meeting, whenever it comes up for action, maybe possibly considering a zoning condition that restricts those uses that were listed under A on Title 19 that Mike showed us.
Thank you, Scott. I think that's an important reminder. I know we did that on the rezone further up the road, closer to the mouth of the canyon. So good reminder. Appreciate that. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Let's move to item 5.0 on our council agenda, or 5.1, I should say. It's consideration of resolution 2021-21 concerning the city's development review committee and the formalization of that. So Mike, are you going to introduce that?
Yeah, I can. Thanks, Mayor. This is a resolution following the city's sensitive lands ordinance, where in sensitive lands areas, and when we're considering projects in sensitive lands areas with certain site hazards that require review by the city's DRC, that the council appoint or formally approve the makeup of that committee. The DRC meets, it's a staff committee made up of the Community and Economic Development Director, Senior Planner, the Associate Planner, sometimes other planning staff, City Engineer, Public Works Director, the Fire Inspector from Unified Fire, other staff members as needed, including stormwater staff, the city geologist when those issues are present. Sometimes outside expertise from Salt Lake City Public Utilities if it involves water issues, or Cottonwood Improvement District with sewer issues. Building official, city attorney as needed. So it's a staff committee made up of all the department heads and then various support staff representing each department that is usually involved in development projects. The function of the DRC is to meet usually first at a pre-application level to provide department-specific feedback for any pending application and give prospective developers or applicants a heads up of what to expect and what requirements the city is going to have. But another function of the DRC is to review sensitive lands hazards and ensure the proper sensitive lands studies and hazard reports and that kind of thing are prepared and implemented. In that case, where they're acting to approve sensitive land studies and analyses, that's where the council has to officially recognize the makeup of the DRC. So the resolution tonight is proposing to formalize the makeup of the DRC as it's been operating. It's the same exact staff following the same exact process that we always do. making sure everything is done properly and per code. So this resolution just formalizes that for the gravel pit project, but also for other sensitive lands projects in the city.
Mike, and I think I've asked this before, but I want to make sure that I'm clear. This is a formal committee. Therefore, my question is, as it meets, how do you document the outcomes of the meeting? Is it in minutes? Is it in memorandum to file? Is it in, how is the results of the meetings documented?
So it's a staff level committee. So meetings aren't public meetings or noticed. Notes are kept by staff just to ensure that what we recommended and what we talked about is documented. Sometimes the application comes in much later than the DRC meeting happens. So we keep meeting notes of each meeting. We require conceptual plans to be submitted for every DRC meeting, and we keep files of all of those. So we do keep staff notes and concept plans on file. And then usually those projects become formal applications, in which case everything is documented through the project application file.
Okay, comments or questions regarding this resolution?
Is there protocol for how often you meet? The amount of time?
So the DRC, we meet as needed, but we have every week we have a standing appointment. Every Wednesday, midday, everyone in the DRC committee sets aside time from usually 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And then we have an informal application form. If someone wants the DRC's feedback or has to come meet with the DRC on a certain project, they have to submit that form to us. We get them on the schedule and we hold that meeting. So they're weekly meetings scheduled usually a week in advance. For some of our sensitive lands projects that require scoping reviews and things like that, sometimes those are set up in addition to those Wednesday meetings, but generally weekly.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the proposed resolution? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we approve 2021-21.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bruce. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second that.
It's been seconded by Councilmember Peterson. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'd call for the vote. Councilmember Michael.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce.
Yes. Councilmember
Peterson.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Okay, that's the only formal action item. We also do have a consent calendar item, which is approval of the City Council work session and business meeting minutes for May 4th, 2021. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Mayor, also the special work session minutes of May 11th, please.
Okay, I guess I can add that on, Shane, can I? It's not on the
It's on
agenda.
my consent. It's on my agenda.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, just on my, okay, May 11th. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure because I'm not sure I can approve things not on the agenda. All right, so we have the council work session business meeting minutes for May 4th and the May 11th special meeting minutes. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I move that we approve those minutes, Mayor.
It's been moved by Councilmember Peterson. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Councilmember Michael. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll just call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
More importantly, anyone opposed? Let the record show that it was unanimous. That's all the business for tonight. It's almost 9 o'clock. I would entertain a motion to adjourn if you would like to do that, since Riley's already driving away.
I move that we adjourn.
It's been,
Take your point, take your pick.
it's been.
Bye, Riley.
Say goodbye to Riley. He's driving away. Okay. It's been moved by Councilmember Bruce. Do we adjourn? And do we have a second? A second, Councilmember Bracken.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. Be safe.
Good night, everyone.
Night.